are good you saw and heard fireworks on and around the 4th of July. In Sioux City, it's legal to discharge fireworks on both the 3rd and 4th of July from 1 p.m. until 11 p.m. Even then, you do have to follow the rules. And this year, like last, hundreds of complaints were called into police. In all, police logged 258 firework complaint calls in 2023. Of those, police issued just 9 citations. That includes written warnings. When you look at data from the police department, the number of complaint calls have actually dropped over the last few years. Last year, police logged 295 complaint calls and issued 26 citations. All of those citations were written warnings. In 2021, there were 328 complaint calls about fireworks and 13 citations were issued. Now, if you take a look at this breakdown of citations from 2023, of the 9 citations issued this year, only 3 are citations to appear in court. And while numbers of calls and citations are down, one resident of Sioux City's west side says the noise and trash left behind is a growing problem. She took her concerns to the city council. KTIV's Clayton Anderson tonight shares her story.
There is so much smoke, and they're shooting them off on the curbs, Roman candles, but I noticed they moved their cars across the street. You know, they're not worried about the cars that are right beside them.
Jeannie lives on the 1600 block of West 5th Street in Sioux City. She takes pride in her home and her garden. But every July, smoke and firework fragments come in and disrupt her peace that is in her neighborhood garden.
If that would have hit my glass door, it would have shattered that.
Over the 4th of July, police saw the end of a rocket firework just feet from her door. But she says she stopped calling police because she says nothing has changed. Sioux City Police Sergeant Tom Gill says it can be difficult to navigate fireworks calls when officers are tied up with higher priority calls.
But if they go and they hear nothing and they don't have an exact location, they'll probably just go to the next call.
The City Council could put in place a total ban on the discharge of fireworks, but they can't change the rules of purchasing or possessing fireworks. Those decisions are made by the state. Mayor Bob Scott says enforcement is necessary for people to take policy seriously.
I'm at a point where I would probably vote for the ban simply because our police department is not either willing or able to do the things they need to do to slow this stuff down.
For Pullis, she feels like something has to be done.
I just don't understand how so many parents can break the law and let their kids break the law, and they stand right there while they do it. In fact, they've probably bought it for them.
She says she expects fireworks will be blasting off again in her neighborhood come New Year's Eve. In Sioux City, Clayton Anderson, KTIV News 4.
One group that suffers from a lack of enforcement is people who have post-traumatic stress disorder. And just before July 4th holiday, KTIV's Matt Hoffman spoke with a veteran who moved to the U.S., he says, because of the positive treatment of military members. But after spending his first Independence Day in Sioux City, he says he's disappointed that some didn't follow the rules.
Eli Mosselman just spent his first 4th of July in Sioux City, and he was hopeful the public would follow the rules, only shooting off fireworks on July 3rd and 4th from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. But that didn't happen, and Mosselman suffered PTSD flashbacks from his time in the Israeli military.
Hands of the city councils are pretty much tied because they can come up with laws, but if nobody enforces that, then they can't do much.
And Mosselman says he took the job here at Briarcliff because of the way the United States treats its veterans. But after this July 4th holiday, he isn't feeling quite as patriotic.
And I have horrors and nightmares every single night, and that's the last thing you want to hear.
For years, Mark Solheim has argued the city should ban the discharge of fireworks. But he also says the police should do more to enforce the laws already on the books.
What we've been doing is trying to put up PSAs and tell everyone what the legal limits were and everything, and it's just not working. We need to do more.
A Sioux City police spokesperson says the city is doing something when they respond to a call, even if a court appearance isn't issued. He's sympathetic to residents who have to deal with neighbors who break the rules.
You know, sometimes a written warning goes a long way with educating everyone that's there. Because usually it's not one person out there lighting fireworks. It's a whole bunch of people or a family.
Randy Giles says she doesn't like the city allowing fireworks on days that aren't the legal holiday.
I just don't get why we have to add those extra 2 days to terrorize and form panic in our animals and in our veterans with PTSD.
Fireworks will next be allowed in Sioux City on New Year's Eve, starting at 1 p.m. and ending on New Year's Day at 12:30 a.m. In Sioux City, Matt Hoffman, KTIV News 4.
The Sioux City Animal Adoption and Rescue Center says there are still about half a dozen dogs and cats that are considered missing since the 4th of July holiday.